this pick up sound during the breaks? Hello and welcome everyone to tonight's Sarasota County School District Digital Town Hall. My name is Adam Cellini. I will be moderating tonight's discussion, and it is on a very important topic, mental and behavioral health among our students here in Sarasota County, along with social, emotional well-being. We will have 3 unique segments tonight as part of our conversation, each on varying topics, which we will introduce, so try to pay attention as we move throughout the night. We welcome those of you who are watching on Facebook Live. We are also broadcasting on SarasotaCountySchools.net, the education channel on Comcast 20 and Frontier 33, so you have various options to watch our broadcast here tonight. And we are live, and since this is a live discussion, we invite those of you watching to send in any questions you may have as the conversation goes on. We will be taking those via social media, so either on Facebook or Twitter, just send those questions in and we will try to get to them as part of our program. So before we begin our discussion, I'd like to introduce our panelists that have joined us here tonight. Let's start with Dr. Laura Kingsley, Assistant Superintendent here with the Sarasota County School District.
Hi, everybody.
We have Bridget Ziegler, Chair of the Sarasota County School Board, and we are also joined by Deborah Jackalone, Student Services Supervisor with the school district.
Hi.
And Jennifer Johnston, who is Senior Community Investment Officer with the Gulf Coast Community Foundation.
Good evening.
So thank you for joining us here, everyone. To my right is Mina Ajrab. He is the Digital Media Manager. He will be online, plugged in all night and taking those questions for you.
Good evening, and let's get those questions going.
There you go.
Thanks, Adam.
No time to waste. Let's start with Dr. Kingsley tonight. Dr. Kingsley, the Sarasota County School District, is doing some remarkable work to ensure the well-being of its students. Can you share an overview of the programs and services that students in the district have access to as part of their academic experience?
Okay, well, that's what tonight's all about, and I'm so excited that we are talking about mental health issues because there is probably nothing more important right now in the minds of our parents and community. And, you know, Sarasota County School, all of our schools depend on powerful community input to make us great. Dr. Bowden could not be here tonight, but one of the things that he said just yesterday to an audience of about 250 folks was that anything wonderful and good that's happening in our district is as a result of the powerful community partnerships we have. So I thought maybe what I would start with is first, let's define what mental health issues encompass. And so I turned to Mental Health First Aid Organization, and they define mental illness as a diagnosable illness that affects a person's thinking, emotional state, and behavior, as well as disrupts the person's ability to work or carry out other daily activities and engage in satisfying personal relationships. And I want to overdwell for a second on the word diagnosis. So we know that we are not medical professionals in schools. Educators do not diagnose. We never diagnose. So our whole purpose is to try to understand our children so that we can better support them. We want to understand the signs and the symptoms. And you know, if I were watching this, I might say, well, my family is not affected by mental health issues, so why should I care? And I just want to give another fact from Mental Health First Aid. 1 in 5 Americans and children are estimated to have a diagnosable mental illness. And those mental illness problems, this blew me away. They are more common than heart disease, lung disease, and cancer put together. So if you think about that, you know, we all know what happens if we don't care about the mental health issues. We can have devastating impact in the community. We can have folks who either have suicidal thoughts or, God forbid, commit suicide, folks who have thoughts of harming others or actually harm others. So we're excited for tonight, Adam, because we have a great plan, I think. We're going to first start with thinking about how does the school system think about issues with children? And the very first thing we think about is, are we training all of our children? So Deb and Jennifer are going to talk about what do we do for the entire system of children, our entire school system. What do we do in every school? And then the next two sessions, the other way we think about supporting kids is, if a child is experiencing some trouble and perhaps needs small group support, what do we do then? And also the last two segments of tonight, we're going to talk about what do we do when there's an individual child who's not responding to the support we give and they need intensive intervention. So Deb and Jennifer are the ones to help us do what's happening across our school system.
Thank you so much, Laura. At Gulf Coast Community Foundation, our mission is, together with our donors, we transform our region through bold and proactive philanthropy. To achieve that, we look for the biggest challenges, those opportunities across our region where Gulf Coast can make a unique and positive difference. Gulf Coast has a long history of promoting civility and building stronger connections between people and organizations. We have a long-standing successful partnership with Sarasota County Schools, from our STEM Smart initiative to Reading Recovery to the Civility Initiative. Communities with higher levels of social capital, which is interconnectedness and strong relationships, have safer neighborhoods, better schools with more involved parents, higher wages, and better health. So this initiative is really about looking at how do we create that community here. With the divisiveness in politics and public discourse, we really wanted to create a campaign that speaks to today's issues and means of communication. We designed the Civility Squad in partnership with some amazingly talented students at the Ringling College of Art and Design. And the Civility Squad characters show students that they have the power to be the change they want to see in every action.
I love what Jennifer just shared with us. I believe that the Civility Squad is more than just a cast of characters here in Sarasota County Schools. These are beliefs that every person in our school district really owns, and that sets the foundation for a strong community of positive mental health and active learning for every student in our district. What I'm most excited about is being able to introduce these characters to you all tonight. Like I said, this is more than this cast of characters. These are our belief systems, and we're so thankful to the partnership that we have with Gulf Coast Foundation, because they are helping us keep the principles of civility alive in our school district. We have all kinds of what we call swag material around our schools. Have you seen this great poster that we have in our district that introduces the Civility Squad? And if you haven't, then we are here to introduce you to those characters now.
And real quick, before we get to those characters, ladies, describe the Civility Squad. Why is it these characters? Why is it, you know, this collaboration to create these characters? What's so important about that, you know, before we have an opportunity to meet those characters?
Sure. I think it's really about creating those norms that Laura talked about. How do we help students in each interaction to think about how they can take personal responsibility for creating the community we all want to be a part of?
Yep. And it's giving everybody, every stakeholder, the power to make a change, one good deed at a time.
Yeah.
And it gives us common language, doesn't it? Across every school, every classroom, the children know, like this month, I think a lot of us have on a pin. Mine is all about pay attention. I have the little pay attention character. So we all have the same common language. It's important to pay attention in order to be civil. What was last month?
Well, I have speak kindly, but I just think
That's what it was.
On everything. It's top of mind for adults and students, and it really creates a culture, a dynamic culture for our district.
Which really does bring up a great point, and I was going to mention this later, but this is, I think, a really natural place to insert this. The Civility Squad is embedded not just for our students and our teachers, but also for our bus drivers, our people that support our cafeterias, our athletic coaches. The Civility Squad is the way that we work in Sarasota. This is the foundation for promoting a positive social climate.
Absolutely.
So to describe it a little further, there are these monthly themes. They're split up into characters. I guess just help describe how this is initiated into the schools.
Each month we focus on a different character trait, and we embed everything that we do in the district around that character trait. Our teachers are modeling those traits within the classroom. Students are being given the opportunities to practice those traits. Students that are exhibiting positive character traits of that month are being recognized and rewarded for doing the right thing and showing positive behaviors in our classrooms. One thing that I'm really excited about are our school buses. If you get on our school buses, you'll see the character trait on the window Klingons to remind students that this happens when they're going to school and when they're at school. You'll see our custodial staff sporting the Civility Squad shirts as a constant reminder of, hey, these are the principles that we believe make your school safe, where you can come to learn and teachers can teach.
It's a real team effort. Everybody is on board with this. I mean, from the top to the bottom of the school district, everybody is in on this. So can you introduce us to maybe some of those topics or characters, or however you would like to introduce them, and see what our students are going to learn about?
Here are the keys to civility. The first one is respect others. You are you and I am me. We can agree to disagree. Accept others. Differences shouldn't create a divide. Instead, celebrate diversity with pride. Pay attention. Be alert, be aware, be prepared to show you care. Say thank you. Appreciate the things others do, and they'll appreciate you too. Rediscover silence. Quiet your voice, quiet your mind, and a sense of peace you will find.
Listen, we have 2 ears and only 1 mouth, the better to hear everyone out. Stay positive. Keep your energy upbeat. It's a surefire way to battle defeat. Make a difference. Hold a door, lend a hand. When asked who can help, shout, I can. Speak kindly. Say what you mean what you say. Just don't say it in a mean way. Keep your cool. Take a pause. Take a breath. Wait till there's no anger left.
And I think it's important to say that this initiative isn't about telling youth what they should do. It's about giving them the opportunity to make those positive choices that will make others feel better and make themselves feel better in the process.
What I love about the Civility Squad is it embraces so many of the things that Sarasota is already doing to promote positive social well-being for our students. Many of you have heard about our restorative practices that we're employing in our classrooms. We're teaching students about the power of building relationships through those community building activities. We're teaching students about making good choices and how to mitigate conflict before things actually escalate to a level where somebody causes harm. And when that does happen, how to repair that relationship in a positive way. We're using this as an alternative to suspension. We're using this to promote students being in school more. So the Civility Squad has given us the power to really embrace some of the great things that we're already doing. It embraces our trauma-informed care strategies. It helps us be culturally responsive to the needs of all students in our district.
Yeah, I think scientific data show that emotions are contagious. The way we treat each other impacts our own health and well-being as well as those around us. And I definitely congratulate Deb and Laura and the entire district for the way that you've taken the Civility Squad and run with it and embedded it throughout our district and throughout the days that our youth and our staff are exposed to it. We really couldn't imagine a better partner than Sarasota County Schools for spreading civility, and we're excited to see all the ways that this impacts the school day and the school community.
Have you had the opportunity to walk through some of our schools and see some of the great things that are happening in our classrooms?
I have. I had the great pleasure of going to Laurel Nokomis, where the students read to us stories they had written about each of the characters and their lives beyond the poster.
Yeah, it's great. It is really an actionable set of beliefs that we're seeing across the district everywhere we go.
Deb, tell them about what you saw at Ashton.
Oh, I'm really excited about this, and we're going to share this with our school board. The administrators and the support team at Ashton each dressed up as a different civility character, and they came up with a song and a little dance that they did to promote the characteristics that they want to see each of their students employ and display in their classrooms and throughout their school community.
And even at Oak Park.
Yeah, when you walk into Oak Park, you'll see a beautiful art mural that is representative of each civility character throughout their school, and it is something that even that school is embracing through the power of creating a culture of positive learning.
Jennifer, businesses got on board with you too, right?
Absolutely.
Our community, our entire community, not just the school system.
We had a training this morning at Gulf Coast Community Foundation for workplaces for those who wanted to bring this back and really incorporate it into their work environments, their volunteer organizations, other civic associations.
Yeah, and we found that it's really important to not only have our teachers and our students embrace these beliefs and these principles, but also have our support staff members. Each month we have a lunch and learn session here at the landings, and our support staff, everybody from the superintendent to our receptionist to our secretaries, our administrative assistants, our directors, have the opportunity to come in and learn more about the Civility Squad and the power of civility in the workplace.
And I would add that embracing our families into this discussion as well, because I think you mentioned at the beginning, like, why do we need this? Well, we're finding ourselves in a time where we're moving so fast. There's a lot of polarization and probably not realizing the impact of our words, our body language, et cetera. So I love it. I think it's amazing, but really bringing in families so they can bring this home too, not just businesses and not the community. It's a community-wide effort, if you will. So I love it.
Absolutely, and I would encourage every parent to ask your student about the characters, their favorite character, and more information is available on our website at gulfcoastcf.org.
Excellent. And ladies, we want to take it over to Mina here with maybe our first question of the night. So Mina, take it away.
Sure. We received a question from a high school student's mother. We talked a lot about students and what students should be doing with the Civility Squad. This parent has a situation. Her daughter's friend was recently excluded at the lunch table, and her daughter didn't stick up for her friend. So she's looking for advice. What can parents do to talk to their children, our students, about sticking up when they're being bullied or intimidated or anything like that? I don't know if it's a Deb question or if it's
I think Deb probably could tell you about a really great program we're talking about in our high schools.
Well, I think one of the things that is the most important fact is parents need to be willing to have those conversations with their children. They need to be able to acknowledge that bullying has taken place and teach their students what they can do. We have found that by having positive relationships with adults in the building, students are more likely to be able to feel confident in reporting acts that they see as unacceptable. One of the other things that we find that is really important is giving students the power of their voice to tell others that that is not okay and to recognize that you're doing the right thing. We have a really great program that we're getting ready to implement at our middle schools and our high schools, and it's basically called See Something. So if you see something, the premise behind it is that we empower you to say something to a trusted adult to stop bullying before it actually becomes harmful to our students.
Wonderful. Thanks, Deb.
No problem.
And I'm curious, we're talking about parents getting involved with the Civility Squad situation. Do you see it as an opportunity for students to maybe rehash some of what they learned at home by telling their parents at home about the Civility Squad? Is that sort of the best way, the way? How do parents get involved with that initiative specifically?
Well, we had two thoughts on that. We're hoping that because it is a community-wide initiative and so many businesses are embracing the principles of civility, that the conversations are natural, that the things that parents expect of their children, every parent wants their student to grow up to be respectful. They want them to have the ability to listen to others. They want their student to be able to stay calm and to be respectful. Those are all things that we try to teach our students about, and we're hoping that by having this strong community partnership, we're partners. We're able to talk about things that are happening in the workplace and in our schools.
Mm-hmm. Can I just add to that, parent? I would say she should go home and hug her daughter for having the daughter have such confidence in her mother that she could say this happened. So wow, great parenting, whoever you are.
That's a good
great
point.
Relationships with your child. That's key.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Deborah and Jennifer, we want to thank you for joining us here for this first segment. We are going to take a quick 2-minute break before our second segment, where we will be welcoming some new guests to our panel, and we'll be starting a different conversation about intervention and counseling services for students and families in the schools. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everyone, to tonight's Sarasota County School District Digital Town Hall. Our topic tonight, mental and behavioral health, and we welcome those of you watching on Facebook Live, along with Twitter and the Education channel. This event also streamed on the school district website, sarasotacountyschools.net. Tonight's topic, of course, mental and behavioral health, and we are now joined by 3 new guests on our panel. We welcome Sonia Figueredo-Alberts, Executive Director of Pupil Support Services with the school district, Dr. Christy Skoglund, COO with the Florida Center, and Kirsten Russell, Director of Community Investment with the Community Foundation of Sarasota. They join Dr. Laura Kingsley, Assistant Superintendent here with the district, and Bridget Ziegler, the Chairwoman of the Sarasota County School Board. And to my right, Mina Ajrab, taking your questions live tonight. And please don't hesitate to send those questions in throughout our discussion tonight. Well, Bridget, let's start this segment with you. the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act requires school districts to invest further in mental and behavioral health initiatives. How much did the school district receive for these initiatives, and how will the school district be investing these funds?
Well, we received a little bit over $1 million, and charter schools get about $150,000 of that. There's a number of ways we're investing it, and we have the subject matter experts right to my left, so I will pivot over to Sonia maybe to start to kind of dive into what those dollars are being used for.
Yes, we were very fortunate in a way to be able to design a plan that invest in direct services for children and families. So we went out and started reviewing what we have in place for all families and students, and then we partner with agencies that specialize in the social emotional support and providing a wraparound services for children. Some of those agencies are here with us tonight, which is the Florida Center. And with that also, the Community Foundation had invested in the power of enhancing those services in the schools. So we have direct services of mental health counselors added to our already core of supports in the schools. So we are trying to continue that investment of direct services for students and families. We also partner with additional agencies in our community. First Step is covering our middle schools and high schools. We also have investment from Coastal, JFCS. We also have supports from 40 Carrots, who have taken this as part of their initiatives to go into the schools and continue enhancing those services.
Now, for parents listening right now, we're mentioning a lot of kind of third parties, outside agencies. Would you like to speak to the confidence that maybe the school district has in these agencies that have been identified to sort of help with this initiative?
Absolutely. We in the past have had pilot sites with community agencies, and we have monitored the impact that they have in the children and families in terms of dysregulation and regulating those display of behaviors that at times interfere with access to their education. So that's when we went out and started conversations about, can you invest on us in terms of hiring quality of services and bringing them to the schools? We're educators, we're here to teach, and we needed that clinical lens to help us figure out how to help families. Now, there are processes in place that when families come, because everything is very confidential, and they seek to help, they are going to be directed to the administrator or the health nurse in the schools, or the process of our school social workers or psychologists to come together and review what is necessary to assist that child and family in order to access services.
And Dr. Kingsley, I want to take it over to you for a minute. The school district obviously had a lot of responsibility put on them from the Marjorie Stoneman Act. Mental health, a big part of that, not something that got talked about, I think, a lot initially, but how is the school district handling those new responsibilities that may have come with that?
Well, first of all, we're very grateful for the support. We are horrified that it came out of tragedy, but we certainly want to be as preventative as we can, which is why, you know, Sonia mentioned that she was noticing impact of community agencies. We turned immediately to the Florida Center and Christy Skoglin, who could help us provide mental health therapists. So Christy, tell us, I mean, we put a lot of weight on you, but we appreciate how well our therapists are doing in our schools. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so this is our first year officially well, I shouldn't say that. We've been actually involved in a couple of the schools with the support from the Community Foundation for a couple of years. Alta Vista, we've had someone there going on their third year, and Goshio for the second year. However, we were asked this year to provide clinicians in 14 elementary schools. So we were eager to take on that tall order, and were able to get a majority of those staff hired within the first month of school starting. And you know, our organization specializes in young children and understanding trauma and the impact of early trauma in the lives of children and families, and understanding that children who are displaying big behaviors, inability to focus, aggression toward others in school, those sorts of things. A lot of, behavior isn't just behavior. Behavior has a source. There's always a reason. It could be something organic, developmental, environmental, but there's something going on, and we are experts at kind of figuring that out. And so we come to the table with that lens, and we are hoping to influence this larger system who is great at educating students and already doing a great job in providing supports for students who are having challenges. But as Dr. Kingsley mentioned earlier, when those children kind of rise to kind of bubble up to the surface as children who aren't responding to the supports that are already in place, then we are able to get involved in a deeper way that the school system just doesn't have the resources necessarily to provide, meaning we will initiate services with families. We will do some of that deeper end work and try to find out why this child is coming to school not ready to learn. What's going on in that family system, perhaps. Try to meet with that family, because we know that trauma and challenges within families is not just, one-dimensional or one generation. We've got to go back and find out what's going on with those families. We are looking at something called ACE scores, Adverse Childhood Experiences within families, and looking at parent ACE scores, so understanding that parent's own experience of being parented and what that might look like and how that might be impacting their ability to support their child in the best possible way. And do that in a loving, caring, nurturing, kind, supportive way that isn't punitive or judgmental, but knowing that every parent wants their child to be successful and be the best that they can be. And we want to help them do that. We also want to influence the school. We want to help the school see the child in a way that is supportive and successful as well, because we all know that it can be a challenge. These children are sometimes not necessarily easy, but when we view them through the lens of how can we help you and what's happening here and how can we support you in a different way, then we all come together. And it's been a great experience so far, and we're looking forward to seeing how things progress throughout the year.
I just want to add something really quickly, because since I've been on the board, it's interesting because we have been talking about boosting up having social workers in the schools, and because there really is an incredible part that they play to help support our educational staff, but and be that link, because there are circumstances where children just, like you said, the trauma is not that they're bad kids. There's just something circumstantial that's going on, and if we don't treat that root problem, we'll never get to allowing those children to be successful. So for me, and I know the board as a whole, is just very, very, very thrilled to be able to offer this.
And this is a partnership, and I call it a partnership because it's a triage of services. Right. Within our school district, we have great experts in the area of education, connecting families to the journey of education, but the lens of a clinical counselor helps us define what is going on, how can we help families, and how we can connect those services. Mm-hmm. And the key is many of our parents have a lot of things in their plate already, but providing that counseling wraparound services within the school also brings them in to understand what's going on and how we are here to help them, so they can help us in the journey of education. I want to ask Kristen, because your vision through the Community Foundation supporting this pilot for the last 3 years helped me understand and focus on the impact. So can you share how you started this journey with the Florida Center?
So at the Community Foundation of Sarasota County, we tend to look at philanthropy as an opportunity to use risk capital to create proof points, to really kind of look at what can we do. And oftentimes that means a small pilot program that can be nimble, that we can kind of look at how we measure things, what type of impact we're having. And that's exactly what happened here. It wasn't our idea. The school district has some incredible people in the system, which we all know. We have some here today. But I give a lot of credit to Dr. Shirley at Alta Vista. We've been working very deeply with that school for 6 years. And as a result, it's what we would call a community school that works with partners throughout the community all of the time. And what they started noticing is that the referrals that they were referring children out, mental health services that weren't being accessed. And so they really looked at a solution. And when you're working in Title I schools, high poverty schools, that comes with it complex issues. Christy referred to the ACE scores and the trauma of, trauma comes just from having a divorce or domestic disputes, right? The child feels things from that. So what they did at Alta Vista is they said, well, could we bring the services here? And they used their Title I dollars, very unique way, and they went to Florida Center and brought in a mental health clinician. We then worked over time to begin to say, well, is this just working at Alta Vista? Is this a unique place? Can this service go someplace else? How much of it's replicable? And so we went to Goshio, they had been talking to us about some of the behaviors they were seeing in the schools. And if you think about what the role of a principal and an assistant principal are, when their time is spent with behavioral issues, they can't do what they're there to do. They can't work with teachers one-on-one, because remember, you don't become a principal without having taught, so that's what you're really good at. And if you don't have the opportunity to train your teachers because you're getting pulled in all these different directions. And so at Goshio, they said, we've got these issues, we want to try that too. And this time we said, okay, let's do it and let's measure the impact. Let's look at what's really happening. And I think that, Sonia, when you started to see that and you went to the school and you saw cultural shifts, and that's really, I think, what's happening. We know that schools are here to teach our kids, and that's so important. But when you're being distracted, a child can't learn when they have physical health problems, they're not feeling well, or they have a toothache. But they also can't learn when they're thinking about what happened this morning, or how their parents react, because that's just what their parents know.
Kirsten, I'm going to stop you right there, because we do have a question that we want to get to. So Mina, go ahead and fire away.
You triggered something, Kirsten. You talked about teachers and behavior, and Sonia, we just got a question right before we started via email. We had another question, so I'm going to kind of merge the two.
Okay.
The question is, what is Sarasota County Schools doing to teach teachers about students who are perceived as different? That's the first. Second prong to that question is, at the school, for students who need to talk to a trusted adult, and you mentioned counselors, who is the best person at the school for them to reach out to, and how can they be reassured of anonymity?
Let me answer the first part, and then I'm going to pitch it to Sonia to answer the second part, because we have spent a lot of time trying to think about what is the best training for our teachers. Because just like Kirsten said, principals and assistant principals need to be the instructional leaders in their school. Well, our teachers need to be able to teach. So what we have found, the best that we have found, is the work of John Safier, who wrote the book High Expectations Teaching. And I'm just going to leave you with this before Sonia answers about anonymity and getting support. John's 3 statements are critical for us not only to say to our children, but to do things that cause children to believe that we mean it. And first of all, it's, hey, this is really important what we're doing. This is important work. This is important learning. I have worked really hard as a teacher to prepare this important work for you, and you can do it. I believe you can do it. And this is the key for me. And I will not give up on you. I'm not giving up on you, young man with behavioral issues. Sorry, gentlemen. It's often the little boys. I will not give up on the children who are sitting next to you who need to be taught. And we don't want behavioral disruptions in the classroom. So this is important. You can do it. And I will not give up on you. And I will tell you, we're saying the same thing to our teachers. This is the attitude we want to give our teachers too, from district leadership. Hey, teachers, you have the most important job in the world. This is so important. You can do it, and no one is giving up on you. It's an all-around culture that we want to promote. So, Sonia, when kids have issues?
And aligned to that, because teachers need to be able to teach, and we have children that come with dysregulation, with behaviors that prevent that access to their education. That is the focus of our partnering and triage of support services, so teachers know that they can access a mental health counselor. They can ask for our social worker, our school psychologist, our homeschool liaisons. So we are focusing on a triage of support services in the schools, so teachers are able to continue believing the child can do it and wrap around those services also for the family. You also asked the question in terms of where can they go. We have partnered with a nonprofit, Sandy Hook Promise, and we are bringing a lot of training to our students, because it's not only the ability of teachers to be able to teach and believe in our children, connect to the families of those supports and make those referrals, but our students to understand where they can go and ask for help. So with that, our training has been going on in terms of having assemblies in our schools to teach our students how to ask for help, where can they go when they see something. We have done training in threat assessments, and Sandy Hook has, as a nonprofit, has a coordinator that helps us in our district coordinate those assemblies to bring that training to our students.
Mina, I just want to add to that. The parent asked, what about confidentiality? Mm-hmm. And I just want to say our school counselors and other support services are very good at saying to a child, we are here to help you. We will keep this confidential. But if a child expresses that they are being harmed or feelings of harming someone else, mm-hmm. they're very honest with the children that there are some things we cannot keep confidential. So,
and
does that mean contacting the parents? I mean, just to be clear, like where?
There's different processes that we have as educators to follow through, depending on the situation. And this is about keeping children safe. Mm-hmm. And notifying the appropriate organizations, authorities of what the child is presenting at the time and the actions that need to occur, because we're going to protect the children. I must add, in terms of when we're dealing with children that come through trauma and the question about teachers, we are doing a lot of training on trauma-informed care, youth mental health, to assist families to understand we're here for them. We have to connect them. We have to refer those services. We're bringing those services to the school. It's about the child. And it also is about, we are mental health counselors. Not only are they placed in Title I schools, but they're also placed in non-Title I mm-hmm. schools. So we're trying to continue this pilot. We saw the evidence, the impact on students and families not being referred for additional services, but keeping them calm and being educated. So my hope is that as we evaluate this program, monitor, that we can expand by advocating to the state for more funding to increase the support of counselors in our schools for our families and students.
Let me just ask Kirsten, because one of the things that the Community Foundation of Sarasota County is doing, you are expanding our services thanks to the good work of the Florida Center to the 4 highest poverty schools, mm-hmm. but you're also conducting a study.
Right.
Can you talk about that?
So we worked with the Florida Center and the school district to find someone who's done a lot of work with both of you to evaluate what's happening, to measure the impact as we go, to be nimble. We're working with humans. Mm-hmm. It's tough. We're working with a lot of the issues are complex and go deep. So we wanted to be looking at how many students, again, it's all anonymous. We're not tracking those individual students. We're looking at the big picture, comprehensively. What does this look like? What are the changes that can take place in the school setting? We see impact every day. Christy can speak really well to it, but we have kids who are self-identifying and going up to a teacher saying, I need to go see Miss Jen right now. And that allows the rest of the 17 kids in the class to continue to learn. So we're measuring all those impacts, the little ones like that, which really aren't so little, but also the bigger things. You know, are the kids who have deep issues, is this the first time they've ever seen a clinician? You know, are they going to continue services? Do they need to go deeper? And how does it affect the whole culture of the school? I think that's a big piece of it. The school has these kids for a big part of their waking hours. What happens? What are the changes that we can see and measure, and then create those proof points that we can carry from school to school?
And you know Kirsten, we're talking about elementary schools where these services are expanded, and because we're talking about elementary schools, and you know, this was a Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School Act. A lot of attention has been put on high schools, but how valuable, or is there any more value to reaching these kids at an early age like that elementary age? And this isn't just for Kirsten, but I mean, I open it up to everybody.
Well, I think we know the roots of mental health begin with our children. We know that you have to be healthy to learn. So I think the more that we can do and the earlier that we can do it, the better the impact that we'll have. I'll let our experts kind of speak to that a little bit more. But
yeah, please. I mean, and Christy, I'm especially interested to hear kind of your thoughts on those elementary school kids.
I completely agree with Kirsten, and that's what we do at the Florida Center. Is we understand the need for early intervention and how important it is to seek early intervention and make sure that we attack issues as early as possible to have the best outcome for their future.
And you give them tools.
Absolutely.
You know what I noticed, Adam? I'm just going to say one last thing.
Real quick.
So I noticed that our community is losing the stigma that mental health issues have often typically brought to a community. I don't know, Bridget, do you agree that we are no longer thinking that it's a bad thing to seek help?
No, I think and I know we're getting a wrap, and we could talk about it a long time, but I think it is important to be people can be comfortable in front of center, because in able to treat it, we have to be honest about it, and I think the district's offering a number of ways and resources for those to come forward. So,
and I don't think it's exclusive to this area. I think it's nationwide at this point. Well, we are going to take another 2-minute break. Don't forget to keep sending in those questions, and we will see you again here shortly. Welcome back, everyone, to tonight's digital town hall with the Sarasota County School District. Our topic, of course, mental and behavioral health, and we would like to introduce our final fresh face on this panel for tonight. It is John Annis, Senior Vice President of Collaboration and Impact with the Brancic Foundation. John, thank you for being with us tonight.
Pleasure to be here, especially as a fresh face.
The freshest. And he is, of course, joined by Sonia Figueredo Alberts, Executive Director of Pupil Support Services with the district, School Board Chair Bridget Ziegler, and Dr. Laura Kingsley, Chief Academic Officer with the district here. So this first question, I'm going to just open it up to everybody. Last spring, the school district learned of a national crisis hotline where students can anonymously text counselors 24/7 for immediate support and help. So who would like to, I guess, jump in and maybe tell us about this new support hotline?
Well, I'll start. I know, surprisingly. So we are so grateful to Charles and Marjorie Brancic Foundation. They brought us Nancy Lublin, who is a child advocate, and she is the originator of the crisis text line, which provides immediately a text conversation to any child who, or adult, a community member who texts that crisis text line, 741-741, and you know, I'm not a texter, so here for you, but let's see. Yeah, text here for you to 741-741. And we have access to thousands, I think close to 4,000 counselors, crisis counselors. And I have one bit of data. 62 million messages were texted to that crisis text line last year. 75% of them were under the age of 25. So we know our children experience crisis. It may just be excess stress. It may be I'm having a lot of trouble at home. It may be more serious things. So John, you were there when we met Nancy Lublin. I don't know if you have anything to add.
Well, yeah, I mean, John, what appealed to you? You know, why jump in and help with something like this?
First, I was a little concerned because Nancy's dad is actually a Yankees fan, and I'm a Red Sox fan, so I thought there was going to be some conflict.
So that runs deep.
Yeah, we had to text that like right away as a challenge for me. But Nancy was incredible. I think we had read about her and heard a lot about her work, and when she came to the community, we filled up, Selby Gardens over there, and everyone was talking about what a great program this could be, and we're pretty new in rolling it out, so it's a new effort here at the district.
And what's the appeal of the texting version of this? Maybe I guess.
I was just gonna say, because she said I'm not a texter, and I'm thinking to myself that's why it's so great in a lot of ways, because because everyone has a phone, and especially if you're trying to appeal to a wide demographic of ages. I mean, it's quick, it's easy, it's confidential for the most part. So I mean, it definitely is confidential. I mean, when you're just being able to quickly text something and be able to have access to amazing resources, I think that it's right at your fingertips. So.
And the signage for the crisis text line, I know we have a shot of that.
Yeah, it was up earlier too, yeah.
That is now posted in all of our middle schools and high schools in hopefully visible places for children to see.
Right.
So
and the power to text and receive help immediately, it's
life-changing.
Life-changing. It really is for our students and adults.
And it's truly 24/7. I mean, they can text and they receive responses, I mean, throughout 24/7 type of hours?
Yes, they do.
What an incredible resource. And Mina, I believe we do have a question about it.
We do, and I think we did, and I think we received half of an answer. The question was, how is the number that the children are encouraged to text safe? This came up recently Tuesday at the Superintendent's Forum, and so the two-part question was: is it safe to text this number, and how appropriate is it for students to use this service?
When you say, is it safe, I can't think of a safer place to text and get anonymous support. I know if there are really serious issues that those trained counselors on the other side of that text conversation will be able to support whatever is the situation. They'll be able to support those folks who use it. So I believe it probably couldn't be much safer than that. that. And I think it's very easy to use. We set it up. Our counselors have access to using it. Our social workers know about it. So we're excited for our kids to be using it. And yes, I think it's safe.
And I would add the anonymity piece, and it's not, sometimes there's resistance or hesitation to speak to someone about it, even though we just talked about a number of resources that are face-to-face. So, I mean, and you're talking about dire situations sometimes where a minute or 5 minutes can make all the difference in the world. So that's where I think they're powerful.
And Adam, something else that Charles and Marjorie Barancic Foundation has done, I think, is just incredible for our community. John, will you talk about the environmental scan?
I will. So we're very excited about this. We started talking about doing a scan, or the mental health issue. You know, Kirsten and Kristen talked about Christy talked about this important in the schools, how important it was. We were initially thinking about doing this scan 0 to 3. That was our focus. We have a program, First 1,000 Days, and we really wanted to focus on the mental health of these new moms or expecting moms and their children and getting them off to a really good start. So we were talking about this 0 to 3 focus on mental health, and we mentioned it to Dr. Kingsley, and she said, and Sonia, and they said, you can't do just 0 to 3. You've got to do K-12. So we said, well, yeah, we probably should. And at the same time, the sheriff was saying the biggest issues he were facing were mental health. Judge Quartermain talking about in the 12th Judicial Circuit, mental health. So we did a lot of back and forth, and we were lucky to have a partner with Gulf Coast Community Foundation who said, we will help you fund this. It's important work. We want to have some really good research. So we sent out a request for proposals across the country and interviewed a lot of different organizations to do this deep research into a mental health scan. And USF actually ended up winning the proposal, and they started the work a few months ago. And they are doing a really deep dive into our community to say what are some of the best practices, where are the gaps, what are our needs, what can we do, what are we doing well, and what can we do better. And so they've been interviewing and doing surveys, and in February they will come back with a strategic framework saying here's how we really think the community can move the needle if you follow some of these steps. We're fortunate to have amazing nonprofits doing the work in our community. I don't know if we're always good at aligning the resources in the most effective way. Is that how do we say that the Florida Center is exceptional at this, and they should really stay focused in that area? And I think what happens frequently with our nonprofits is they see a need and they start to do that too. And then add something else to it, and then they kind of take away from what they're really good at. So I think this mental health scan will help us say, if we really want to move the needle in Sarasota County, we really need to kind of stick with these issues. So with Gulf Coast Partnership, we met with the Behavioral Health Consortium group in the county. So we've got a bunch of experts in that group, I think 40 or so people that sit in that behavioral health group, a bunch of really smart folks that work with this all the time. And they said, if we do this scan, we really will be able to move the needle forward. So that's what we're doing in February. We'll have the results, and we'll be rolling it out in early March. Our last meeting, the Barancic Foundation also put up the first $350,000 into a fund to say, when we identify some of these issues, let's take some action immediately. And there are other donors that are stepping up to say they're very interested in the results, and I'm sure we'll have a wonderful partnership going.
So for teachers and parents maybe and other faculty, how will that look in the schools, maybe an environmental scan? How intrusive? What will that look like in our schools?
Sonia's actually been the connection with the researchers from USF now, and I'll talk first about the focus groups they've done with nonprofits. So they've met with some of the nonprofits that provide services and say, what's your wait lists look like? How long does it take you to treat folks? Really a big focus on prevention, too. Is there's been a lot of talk about what do we do after the issue's been identified. Christy and Kirsten were talking a bit about, let's do some prevention work. Let's start really early, but we've got to do prevention, intervention, and treatment. How do we do all of those things well, and how do we align that? So I wasn't in the meeting that you had with USF on how it went and what they're asking, but I think they're trying to catch up with what we're doing.
Yeah, please, Sonia.
I think in our school district, again, what Laura and Bridget had mentioned, our teachers need to teach. And we need to keep the power of relationship when they invite those children in their classrooms. What we at times present with barriers is in the area of that social emotional dysregulation. And we don't have enough experts within that team many times in many schools. So to me, the focus should be expanding those services that know it works for that child and the family, and how can we leverage more of what's working, and then eliminate things that are not part of a gap. We need more supports. We have triage of fabulous social workers, school psychologists, homeschool liaisons, but and now with our mental health therapists, it's working, it's impacting, it's decreasing a lot of those areas, so we need to expand what's working and eliminate fluff. I call it.
And I'm going to challenge Adam because he said
there's a lot of people on this panel.
He said
I'm never quiet.
that Sarasota is not unique in that way. I have to say, our community is quite unique with the support that we get from our foundations, and not the least of which is Charles and Marjorie Barancik Foundation. You know, we have things like embracing our differences. What community has an organization that creates a whole website and City Island Park banners for everyone to walk around and see children's artwork and the quotes from hundreds and hundreds of people that all talk about accepting differences and being healthy and happy. I tell you, this book could be a curriculum on mental health and being a happy, healthy person. And because I know the time is almost up, you know I have to share 2 books. You know, not much came up about bullying, but, you know, good old Dr. Seuss. This is a favorite, and it talks about sneetches, people with stars upon theirs. He is a great wordsmith, isn't he? But it's the people who have stars and the people who don't have stars. It's all about bullying and accepting differences. And then my grandson sent me this one, and I am so tickled with it. It's Desmond and the Very Mean Word. He caught it at the library in Durham, North Carolina, and sent it to me. And you can imagine who it's written about. Come on, Desmond? Anybody? Yes, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who had someone bully him, and his way of responding. So I encourage parents to talk to their children and read, and picture books are a great starter for conversations. Thank you, John. Thank you, Charles and Marjorie.
And we would never discourage you from teaching. That's what you're good at. So I'm not going to stop you from teaching here on this panel.
I have to add, though, on the scan, and this is, I just think it's a really, Sarasota, I always say this, we're so fortunate to have so many nonprofits, to have such a philanthropic community, and there's so much to offer. Where I think this is going to be really exciting is that it's a comprehensive look of those gaps and how the school district often is this hub of where we can direct them to all those resources, and then kind of a map for us to really know where those strengths are. So we're very fortunate to have that.
If people want to get involved with the survey, it's still time to take the survey or to participate in focus groups on Facebook. It's Sarasota County Mental Health Environmental Scan, and that'll bring you right to a site where you can find out where the next one's going to take place and get your opinion heard.
Awesome.
I also, based on your question, Mina, that came from our public and parents, we need to mention that we also enhance the ability of our middle school and in high schools to partner with agencies, just as the Florida Center specializes in birth through 10 years old. First Step, Coastal, Centerstone, we have a lot of partnerships with agencies that are coming in, providing support to our students. We're referring them out, and to our families too.
Excellent.
What a lucky community we are.
We're a very lucky community, and unfortunately, we are out of time for this discussion tonight. Fortunately, everyone we have met here on this panel will continue working hard for students in this area, no doubt about that. Thank you for joining us and watching and carrying on through our online stream. I believe there will be a resource to rewatch this conversation, and until the next digital town hall or open public forum, we will see you then.